So for this entry into Masterpiece Cinema, I want to talk about one of the greatest films not just in Tamil cinema history, but also in world cinema history, Vaaranam Aayiram. After the huge blockbuster success of Kaka Kaka, Gautam Menon, Harsh Jayaraj, and Surya were going to team up once again for another film. Now originally, Vaaranam Aayiram was going to be titled Chennayil or Marikalam, and the film was going to go underway in 2005, right after the huge success of Surya's other film that year, Gajini. And obviously we all know that Essen was the lead pair for him in that film, so Gautam Menon wanted to have that pair teaming up once again for Chennayil or Marikalam. And Daniel Balaji, who would later on work with Gautam Menon in Vettayadu Vilayadu, and also they worked together in Kaka Kaka, was going to do another role in the film as well. Sadly, the movie did only photo shoots and some scenes apparently, and it never got filmed to its full extent, obviously because it got dropped. And here are some promotional photos from the sets of that film, because who knows, maybe in another universe we could have had this movie instead of Vaaranam Aayiram, but I'm very thankful we didn't get this movie because the end result of Vaaranam Aayiram is a beautiful masterpiece in my personal opinion. At this point in Gautam Menon's career, he was well known for his debut film Minnale, which was a romantic film, and he was also well known for his police procedural dramas like Kaka Kaka and Vettayadu Vilayadu. And also he did Pache Kilimuttacharam in between Vettayadu Vilayadu and Vaaranam Aayiram. So he was kind of well known as this dramatic, stylized thriller kind of director. But Vaaranam Aayiram was going to be a deviation because in many news outlets and in many interviews, he was saying outright that this film was going to be an autobiographical film based around his life. And he said that 70% of the film was going to be based around stuff that had happened to him or had happened to people around him. And the rest of it will be with cinematic liberties and whatnot. And for this film, he pretty much filmed the movie for almost 2 years. The film got restarted after Chennayil or Marikalam got dropped, and the film restarted filming in 2006 and finally finished in 2008. So for 2 years, he utilized that time alongside Surya to kind of build up both of the characters of the father and the son, giving the aging a little more realistic looks and allowing everyone to kind of grow into their characters and kind of grow with the story as it goes along. In a lot of interviews preceding the film's release and even after the film's release, Gautam Menon had outright said that this film was going to be a celebration towards his father's life. He considered his father as his role model and his hero in his personal life. And when you watch this film, you see the affection and love he had towards his father. And you can tell that in terms of character growth and character like design, this is one of the greatest character designs I've ever seen for a character in Tamil cinema history, because you see the natural growth that Surya and Gautam Menon had put towards Krishnan's character, who is Surya's father's character in the film. And obviously we see the growth of the younger Surya, but in this film too, we get this like very underrated growth in the older character too. He's obviously a loving father towards his son. He cares about his son a lot. He wants to show him the ways of life. And obviously Gautam Menon was basing a lot of this off of stuff that really happened to him in his life. And he said that, you know, like bringing a person that he kind of liked over to his house, that conversation that Surya and both of the Suryas have at the gate was actually something that Gautam Menon had with his father. Also, the way that he depicted a person getting affected by cigarette smoking was something that Gautam Menon was very keen on showing, because it really affected a lot of people when it first came out. And actually, in an interview separate from this film, Vetrimaran has said that the reason why he stopped smoking in his life was because he watched Vaaranam Aayiram and saw the effects that it had not just on the person itself, but also the family around him. And you know, not just Vetrimaran, but a lot of people kind of gave up smoking or kind of started thinking about their health a lot more after watching this film. But it wasn't just the older character that I really loved in terms of the character design. The way that the look was achieved for all of the younger Surya's like growth from his like adolescence, his teenagehood, his young adulthood, you know, the points of his life where he was doing really well and he was doing really, really bad in the dumps, like being a drug addict, to recovering from that, getting into a crossroads in terms of his life, what he wants to do, and then finally getting to like, you know, going to the gym, being more confident, working towards the goal of what he wanted to really do since he was a kid and being in the army. It was just a brilliant stroke of genius from Gautam Menon and also Surya in terms of crafting both of those roles, because obviously the father role, we've seen a lot of father and like older roles where people play older characters, but here we see the growth of a young man becoming the person that he is in the present, and seeing the ups and downs, and like how they captured everything with the hair, the facial hair, the kind of expressions, the kind of confidence. Some points in the film, like he's kind of a little more hunched because he's not confident. At the later stages, when he gets more confident, becomes more of himself, he like broadens his shoulders, he becomes a lot more demanding in terms of physical presence in the film, and just his body language too. Like Surya is such an underrated character actor because his voice changes, his look changes, and his body language changes, and that is really like a stroke of genius from a great actor, because the reason why he won all those awards at that time is because he captured pretty much like 6 different roles in this one character. And also for the older character, he pretty much captured like 3 different stages for that older character. So he pretty much did 2 characters where one of them was like 15 years old to like 40. Whereas the other character, we saw his growth from like a 20-something-year-old to like 70 or 80, whatever the age was that he passes away at the end of the film. But yeah, it's insane. It's literally a masterclass of acting for both of those characters. And this is, in my opinion, Surya's best ever role, because he gives it his all in every single scene. He's pretty much vital towards the storyline in this film, because if it weren't Surya in this role, I think this movie would have bombed. The reason why it did so successfully is because the dedication that Surya did towards this role, losing weight, gaining weight, doing whatever it took to make this character as believable as possible. That's another reason why I think this is a masterpiece of a movie, because it makes you believe that this person is growing throughout the whole story, and you kind of believe that this person goes from this age to another age to another age. And this is all before like Boyhood, which literally used time to film a person's aging, whereas here, this is one man, aging himself through like various techniques and various filmmaking techniques too. So yeah, one of the greatest performances I've ever seen. And this was actually the original teaser poster when the film got restarted as Vaaranam Aayiram in 2006. Now, obviously, no one really knew at the time what the film was going to be about. Like, everyone was kind of confused. They were thinking, is it going to be another like Kaka Kaka in terms of being a cop story? Is it going to be a thriller, an action thriller, or whatever? A lot of people are saying it might be like a Forrest Gump type of film. They were saying that it might be a remake of this Russian movie called Character. But obviously, it took 2 years for the film to get released. So if you're thinking like Durva Natchitharam's been in like production for so long, Vaaranam Aayiram was kind of like the Durva Natchitharam before Durva Natchitharam. But at least it was only 2 years rather than like 5 or 6 years or whatever time it is for Durva Natchitharam. But yeah, the anticipation for this film was really at its peak, because I was a huge fan of Surya and I was a huge fan of Gautam Menon, and I still am. But at the time, as a fan of both of them, like I was always checking on like websites and stuff, like what the film was going to be about. Is there any news? Did they drop it? Or are they still filming? But they were pretty much just filming here and there to kind of like build up the kind of like story that they were making, and trying to make it age in a more naturalistic way. And yeah, it's really insane that like we went from this teaser poster to the 2008 final film. I also think one of the best things about this movie, outside of the acting and also the character growth, is the love scenes in this film too. I think it's one of the most romantic movies and one of the most natural romantic movies too. Obviously, there are cinematic liberties in terms of like Surya's character flying all the way to San Francisco, whatnot. I give it a little bit of a pass because this is one of my all-time favorite movies. I know it's ridiculous, but it's a movie at the end of the day, right? But I just love the way that Gautam Menon captured the love scenes in this film and the romantic songs in this movie too, because it felt very fresh and very youthful. It had that vibrance of young love and also that unrequited love, if that's the word, for Divya Spandana's character, where she loves Surya for all this time and only really gets reciprocated in his love after he kind of gets over the fact that, a certain character dies. But I always am very astonished as to how he captured love in this film, because even though I love Virnaitani Veravaya, I think that these romantic tracks in this film are even better than that film in general. But overall, Vaaranam Aayiram is a testament towards life. It's a celebration towards life, and I think it's one of the greatest films in terms of, seeing yourself on celluloid, because I saw a lot of my life when I was watching this film. I got very emotional at many moments in this film because I felt like I went through these things along with Surya's character as the story went on. If you've never seen it somehow, please do, because I consider it as one of the greatest films of all time.